Hey there friends, Dave Paulides, Canine Missing Project, a copyrighted edition for our video channel. And this is Huck, the executive producer of the show. She's demanding more time on screen, a better presence, better treats in the host room. So we're trying to oblige by that. She's been a good girl. He's a good girl, yeah. Yeah. Oh, and you've been sleeping, tell the folks. All right, on with the show. In past shows, I've talked to you guys before about Nexus magazine. In my humble opinion, I think it's one of the best magazines coming out right now in our world. And why is that? Well, that's pretty easy, because they talk about things that nobody else really wants to talk about. The editor, the person who makes this magazine, Duncan Rhodes, great man, critical thinker, thinks outside the box. Example in this month, UFO disclosure or deep state disinformation. That's what the article looks like. What they do is, it's an extensive article. It's really good. It discusses all of these people coming out now about UFOs and saying they're the consummate expert. And it's being found that it's very hard to confirm these people's identity because different federal agencies don't want to admit that they may be credible. In fact, they'd rather say that they were not credible, but they can't. So in trying to vet their background, everyone's having a real tough time. Everyone. There's not many out there that are trying to do a credible job at it, but there are some. And the article goes on to say that these different people coming out, some say different things about how much of the UFO conundrum really exists, how much our government has, what they're not saying, what they are saying. And then this comes full circle back to our CIA. There's been a lot of rumors over the years that the CIA has done things to us, the citizens, about trying to get us to believe what is true and what is not true about the UFO issue. Are they coming from outer space? Are they here? Are some of the things that are done being perpetrated by our own government and not the aliens? So if they keep all of this issue very blurry and keep us not centered, then we really won't know what to believe. It's a fascinating article. I encourage you to get the magazine. And I'm not paid for this. I don't get anything for it. But this is the magazine. It's called Nexus. Great job, Duncan. Thanks for doing what most people won't do. Missing people today. Got 2 cases. Before we step into missing people, the hat. Liberty. Know what the word means. U.S. flag. Got my son's initials on the side, and it's got our website on the back. I've had tons of people say that, who have gotten the hat, saying it's their favorite hat. And the pin, you need the pin, bald eagle. It all takes it back to my son. I'm very humbled for everything he's done for me. Now the case is today. You're going to find some similarity between them. And I think it's going to be pretty obvious. And both of them, pretty recent. First case involves a lady named Renee Arcand, 36 years old, went missing June 27th, 2024. Yes, this year. at campsite 17, 17 miles north of Glendive, Montana. She was originally from Madison, Wisconsin, born and raised, and she found that people loved her cooking. She became a chef. She was the former chef for Trek Bicycles, and then became the GM for a company called Forage Kitchens. She did so well in her life that she was able to buy a home in Madison. And that says something for this lady. At the time this incident happened, she was working for Buffalo Gap Guest Ranch. You might want to look it up. Buffalo Gap Guest Ranch in North Dakota. 40 miles east of Glendive, Montana. Not far from the North Dakota border. The lodge, I looked it up and read it. It said that they advertise lodging, like 27 modern rooms, RV hookups. They have a restaurant and a lounge. I don't know for sure, but I'm going to guess she must have been the chef at the restaurant. They advertise that if you're traveling with wildlife, that they'll take care of them for you if you need to spend the night. They also advertise hunting and fishing for antelope, elk, deer, and pheasant. And it was located 18 miles east of the Montana border. So, very close to Glendive and very close to where this incident happened. Now, this incident happened in Dawson County, Montana. This is the missing person poster that went out. I'll explain the dog in a minute. But just like many of the cases I tell you about, this person disappeared when their dog was with them. How many times has this happened, folks? I'm just telling you. Well, Renee got time off from work at the guest ranch, and she was going to go take a trip to Oregon, drive there. And she was traveling with a male friend, another employee of the guest ranch, and two of Renee's dogs, one you saw in the picture. June 26th, the two dogs, her friend and her, left. And they drove about 40 miles due west into Glendive, Montana, crossed over the North Dakota border into Montana. And then they drove north for 17 miles to campsite 17. This is Glendive right here. The ranch is just really over here more, but it's right, take the same road, take it across the border into Glendive, then go north. And this here is the Yellowstone River. Fish intake or campsite 17, it's both the same, 17 miles north of Glendive. Very rural out here, not a lot going on. A lot of people camping though, because it's a beautiful spot. Now, in June, Yellowstone River isn't at flood stage. It's manageable, definitely fishable. Well, June 26th, they arrive at the campsite. They let the dogs take a break, run the dogs around, look at the beauty of the area. Her friend says that it got to be dark and late. They put the dogs in the car. Renee and him got inside, went to sleep. That was June 26th. He said that when he went to sleep, she was in the car. He woke up on the 27th. She was gone. Dogs were still in the car. He didn't hear anything. He doesn't know what happened. But he did get out and he walked around the area, searched the area around the car and the river. Didn't see any tracks leading to the river. Other people there saw nothing. She was gone. Now, normally, if it's me and that happened, I'd probably search for a couple hours. Maybe give it 3 or 4 hours if she went for a hike and came back. But after that, I'd probably be calling the police or the sheriff. But for some reason, and I know some of you are going to immediately jump to the criminal side, but for some reason, this male companion waited 3 days. June 30th, he calls the Dawson County Sheriff. Well, sheriff comes out, takes a report, and that very next afternoon, they have a full search and rescue call out. They put boats on the Yellowstone River. They have boats with side-scan sonar. They bring in canine teams, cadaver dogs. Drones flew the river all the way to the confluence with the Missouri River. It was a multi-day search. This is what I would have done. Now, the sheriff was interviewed, and he said that Dawson County detectives interviewed the male companion at length. And they didn't say what the companion's rationale for not reporting her missing for 3 days was, but in the end, it made sense to them. Now, deputies, detectives, we've heard every story in the book. And if you're going to be that good and convince us of a rationale, it had to be pretty good. Sheriff never disclosed why, but he just left it at that. So a couple days search, they find nothing. July 14th through July 17th, another multi-day search is conducted by an organization called the Badlands Search and Rescue. And they came in with dogs, drones, side-scan sonar on the river. They flew the river multiple times. They put people on the river in these big piles of lumber that sometimes build up on the river, and they went through it and searched everything. Didn't find anything. Now here's a weird part of the story. But I shouldn't really say weird because I've heard this so many times. This is Renee's pooch. This dog's name is Bean. It's a Chihuahua mix. Well, her companion was given the car by the sheriffs and told to take it back to the guest ranch with the dogs. The companion takes the dogs, leaves Glendive, and goes towards the border. 15 miles from Glendive, which would be right about in this area right here, the companion says that the dogs are acting like they need to go to the bathroom, so he opens up, lets them out, and both of them take off running. And Bean doesn't come back. The other dog came back. Bean never came back. Eventually, the other dog was found in that area 15 miles away by other searchers. Bean was never found. But Bean was, and both dogs were seen by the sheriff when they originally took the missing person report. So they were there. But now this is a puzzling one to me. And I'll explain to you why. I know your gut may tell you, okay, this man that she was traveling with didn't report her missing for 3 days. That's odd. Well, it's only odd if you had the facts. And we don't have the facts, and we have to trust people in law enforcement saying it wasn't odd. Okay. But why would Renee get up early in the morning? My only guess is she had to use the restroom. Something happened on the way to the restroom? Did she see something on the way to the restroom? The sheriff made a statement that he thought that she's in the river deceased. I have a tough time with that one. You'd think that they'd see tracks go into the river, because when you get near a river, the bank is soft. You usually see tracks. They didn't find any tracks. The man said that there weren't a lot of campers, but there were a few. It's a big whodunit. But that area out there on the near the North Dakota border has some history of strangeness. And I hope they find Renee. Second case. Equally as strange, and also around water. Boy's name is Riley Salisbury, 19 years old. Went missing January 12th, 2019. Place called Carlson Island on the Columbia River in Oregon, about 20 miles east of Astoria. Astoria is right near where the Columbia River dumps into the Pacific Ocean. I have spent a lot of time on the Columbia River. Fishing. Fished for salmon. Had a really good time. Caught some fish. The river and the area around it are just exceptionally beautiful. The Columbia River essentially is the divider between Oregon and Washington. Portland would sit just east of the area where this boy disappeared, young man disappeared. So here is a place called Russian Island. This is Carlson Island. And what they were doing is Riley was duck hunting in this area in a small boat. Here's the Oregon-Washington divider. Oregon's down here. This is the Highway 101 bridge that goes from Oregon to Washington. This is the Astoria column right here. So you kind of get Oregon, or Portland would be right over in this area. Now he was duck hunting with his dad, who's named Todd, and his younger brother. Riley was described by his dad as a very experienced, smart hunter. The family lived in northwest Portland. His dad was an engineer. And Riley was someone that just loved the outdoors. He practiced taxidermy and had a large collection of drawings that he made of wildlife near the rivers. And he was fastidious. He was a great artist. He was somebody who took note of the specifics about different things. I find that fascinating. It's a picture of Riley. On January 12th, Todd, Riley, and his younger brother left their home early in the morning. This is one reason Dave isn't a great duck hunter. When you go duck hunting, you got to leave like at 3 or 4 in the morning. You got to be there when the sun rises, all set up in your duck blind or wherever you're at. Dave doesn't do that. I don't like getting up super early. So they leave and they take 2 boats with them. They take one larger boat for Todd and the younger boy and another smaller boat for Riley. And they take off for that south side of the Columbia River. They get in their boats. They slowly make to the area near Carlson Island. And they are in this area of 3 islands, Carlson, Russian, and Minraker. Prime duck hunting area. Riley was getting a little older. This is a tough call by a parent. I remember these days, and it was always tough to me. How much freedom do you give your young adult? And then how much do you hold back and take ridicule for not giving them enough freedom. It's a really fine line, folks. I've been there many times. And I could feel Todd's concern about this. And he did a good parenting thing here. It appears Riley wanted to go out and hunt on his own. So Todd agreed and said, okay, but you have to call me every hour. That's exactly what I would have done. So Riley pushed away, got his boat around a slight bend, and got out of sight of Todd and the younger brother. Todd called him, could get him on the cell phone, but couldn't see him. And then another hour later, Todd calls, and there's no answer on the cell phone. Todd gets concerned. He doesn't see the boat. He can't reach his son on his cell phone. So they start to look for him. Couldn't find him. Todd calls 911 and reports Riley missing. I could feel my gut churning as this was going on. They were in Clatsop County, Oregon, and that's where the call went through to, and they got the sheriff's office. Clatsop County gets the call, dispatches a deputy, calls for their Marine Division to respond, and then they also call the U.S. Coast Guard and request a helo and a cutter to respond. Smart. Helicopter can see things from the air that would take days sometime to find by boat. Clatsop County dispatches multiple boats right away, along with the Coast Guard, their boat, and a helo. And the first deputy there meets with Todd and starts to record what had happened. What was the boat description that Riley was in? What was its color? Where did you last see it? Was Riley a good swimmer? What was he wearing? Todd said that Riley was wearing neoprene waders. I've worn them so much I can't even tell you. I like wearing them. Here's why. These big baggy waders that you wear, they come up over the shoulder and they usually stop right about here, and you wear a belt just above your waistline so that water can't come down and drag you down into the water in these big baggy ones. Neoprene waders hug you tight. They're made of the same stuff as wetsuits. They float. It's a much safer option for almost every kind of fishing that I've ever done. I've liked those better. And that's what Riley was wearing. Okay, so they start searching. They give the descriptions out. And without too long, they knew that Riley was on this location right near this island called Carlson. So here's a place called Napa, and this is Carlson Island. They were hunting right near. See that? Carlson Island. So they put some people on foot, some searchers on foot on Carlson, and they make a very odd discovery. They find Riley's shotgun. And they check it, and it's loaded with shells. Hasn't been fired. Isn't damaged. And they don't see anything around. But they don't see his boat, so they start searching the island. They put the Coast Guard helo above it. They're searching everywhere around that island. They're not seeing anything. Puzzling. So they start going inside out, start searching further from the island. About a mile from the island, about a mile from Carlson Island, right near Russian Island, they find Riley's boat. They stated it was about a mile from the island. So one of the search and rescue boats goes out, looks at the boat, and inside the boat they find Riley's life preserver, his cell phone, and his personal bag. They don't see him. It was completely upright. It wasn't compromised. but it was an ominous sight. Coast Guard kept the teams in the area for 19 hours straight. They wanted to work through dark and use FLIR to see if there was anything in the islands, on the islands, or possibly floating in the water somewhere. But I will tell you that a January day on the Columbia River, that water is going to be really cold. Well, the searchers went for 19 hours. Didn't find anything. And they called the search. So in my humble opinion, that's a little quick. Todd was interviewed by the press and made this following statement to the news. Listen carefully. It was literally like someone picked him straight up out of his position and carried him away because there was no sign of any type of struggle. Sounds like something David write in his books. One more time, listen to this. It was literally like someone picked him straight up out of his position and carried him away because there was no sign of any type of struggle. Wow. Okay. So they searched the island. The thought pattern being, maybe he got in a fight with another hunter, they wanted position. Who knows? But if somebody's going to kill somebody, might as well take the gun too. There was a thought that was written in one of the articles that Riley was on the island and he was hunting from shore and the boat got washed away somehow. He put his gun down, ran out, tried to chase the boat and got pulled down in the water. I don't know if I believe that. I'm sorry, I don't know if I believe that one. That's a hard one to pill. That's a hard pill to swallow. Remember what I told you about the wetsuit part. Now, Riley was a hunter, a subcategory of the people I write about. You've never heard me write hardly ever about duck hunters. Why? Well, people do fall out of boats. People do drown. But this one is different. Area around Oregon has some of the strangest disappearances. That area where he disappeared on the other side of the river and in Oregon has tons of strange disappearances. Tons. So, he was on the water. There's no tracks. And this happened after point of separation. Laura Lee was his mom. Todd was his father. They made a giant statement in the news that they greatly appreciated Clatsop County and what the Coast Guard did in attempting to locate and save their son. They did say that they had wished that the search and rescue had gone on further so that they could possibly have found their son. He was never found, which I think is very odd and makes no sense. So now, remember I told you, 2 water cases right next to the water, both of them. Renee camped right next to the Yellowstone River. Riley, essentially on the Columbia River. Now, people always say, well, Dave, can you sometimes make recommendations about what could be done differently? So first of all, I don't want to disparage Todd or Laura Lee. Like I said, losing their son, huge blow. I've lost my son. I know what it's like. I don't want Todd to feel any worse than he already does. I'm sure he feels like crap. Like I said, when you give your kids an inch as they grow up and they get more and more brave, and you got to let them experience life, and you got to have them learn by example. And then how How much rope do you give them? There's no easy answers here, folks. Like I said, I'm pretty sure that I would have done exactly what Todd had done. I don't know what else you do. And the reports that came out of this, they were pretty clear, but they weren't real clear. There's probably a lot to the story that wasn't made public. But I want the Salisburys to know my heart's in that case. And you know, his younger brother has to live a lifetime knowing he was on the trip when his brother died. Horrible. This is the kindness revolution. It doesn't cost you anything to be kind. We need more kindness in the world. More patience, more understanding. Next time you see somebody in need, reach out. If you're somebody that has free time on their hands, go look up your local county sheriff and join their search and rescue organization. Costs nothing except time. Missing 411 Washington, one of the best sellers I've ever written. You can find it at NA, like North America, nabigfootsearch.com. Go to the online store. Thanks for watching. Huck is asleep next to me. Paulides out.